Mrs. Odilia Sika Intiamwa Bwampong is a media leader recognized for business content strategy in Ghana. She is a multiple award winner in West Africa, a documentary filmmaker trained by DW Academy, and currently the CEO of ON Media. Odilia has had the privilege to be invited by the BBC Big Talk in previous years, but was handpicked in 2009 by her editor to feature Tim Berners-Lee, inventor of the World Wide Web. She is also the only Ghanaian candidate nominated by the US Embassy in Ghana to partake in the International Visitor Leadership Program training in investigative journalism in the United States in 2020. Her appointment as head of business programming for Multimedia Group Limited led to the transformation of the business news department to a viable revenue generator. Her search for news is driven by bravery and consistency, and she loves to use media to help brands, CEOs, and products get magnified and visible.
Welcome to Metro TV. My name is Odilia Intiamwa Bwampong. 11.75 million Ghanaians are 15 years and below. That's the youthful population. About 12% of them are unemployed. About 50% of them are underemployed, according to World Bank statistics. Government has made several efforts to rope in this group of people and to get them engaged. But does this have to be left at the doorstep of government alone? And have we created the enabling environment to make sure that even if government is not doing this alone, the business community is stimulated enough to support? The current inflation figures is at 23.6%. And government treasury bill is 17%, making virtually the private sector, crowding that private sector a bit out of the lending market. Today, we're here to have a very serious national discussion on how to rope in the youth, develop the business sector through innovative ways. And the theme for today's discussion is building a transformative economy, a partnership between the state, the youth, and business. And I'm here with a panel, a strong panel, to do exactly what we're supposed to be doing. But before then, I'll call upon senior partner for Ishmael Yamson and Associates, that's Michael Yamson, my big brother, to share some thoughts as in opening speeches before we start.
Well, thank you so much, Odilia. And let me also welcome our speakers who so graciously agreed to join us today. My sister, Kosi Yankey, Kofi Dadzie, Tonyi, Senayah, and my big brother, Joe Jackson. I know that today's conversation is going to be enlightening, it's going to be riveting. But let me just share a few words that I have prepared. You see, in developing the theme this year, we debated the type of economy Ghana and indeed Africa needs in order to be successful in the global economy. To gain ground on the leading economies and change the long-term socioeconomic prospects and realities for our citizens, simply positing a transformation was not good enough because we recognize two natural principles inherent in the concept of transformation itself. One being relevance, the simple recognition that change is permanent and requires continuous adjustment, and decay, the fact that diminishing returns beset every living thing, including ideas, however radical, once they are birthed. What we sought was to define an economy which would not only be radically changed, but would remain dynamic over the long term, something we have not seen in Ghana since 1957. First, such an economy would be designed so that its internal workings would always be causing a major change across the economy and in a way that makes the ecosystem function better for all players. The effect of constantly asking and answering the questions why, how, and crucially, so what, would become the fuel and impetus for economic thought, planning, and implementation in ways and degrees that have not characterized progress in our economy before. Second, we envisioned an economy that would take precedence over politics. The preeminence of political competition over diligent, innovative implementation of long-term national economic strategy has completely frustrated consistent economic growth and filtered out all opportunities for substantial rejuvenation that responds to the realities of our youthful population and our competitiveness relative to the rest of the world. We have locked up ourselves away from progress as we duel mindlessly over power, projects, and point scoring. Third, we wanted the theme to reflect the insistent demand of the youth in Ghana and Africa for a reset of the political and socioeconomic trajectory in favor of their prospects and success as global citizens. We cannot speak of ending the brain drain even as our young ones increasingly seek greener pastures outside these shores, now more and more in Asia rather than the Northern Hemisphere. Our young people, let me say, are far wiser than the leaders. They see in the current construct a frustrating situation where, and I will paraphrase something from the UK, the effects of poor leadership by the British establishment during the ruinous World War I from 1914 to 1918 led to the statement, lions led by lambs. And indeed, our lion-hearted youth these days feel like they are led by lamb minds. The same chaotic, debilitating decline should not be our story. We, after all, do not have the cushion of an empire to rely on. So, we, the leaders of today, in politics, government, business, academia, thought leadership, social work, civil society, and every other endeavor of national consequence, must think differently. Reimagining the future and making today and tomorrow places where things are better and always getting better is not beyond us. We can be transformative. That is why government, the youth, and business leaders must reimagine our future. Welcome to the Ishmael Yamson and Associates Business Roundtable 2022.
Thank you very much, Michael, for setting the tone for a very riveting conversation that we'll be having in just a minute. But before we go into the various presentations, I would like to do a quick introduction. I'm sure there isn't any person on the panel that I haven't interviewed before. I've spoken to all of you before in my life, so it makes life here very simple and very nice today. On my extreme right is Mrs. Kosi Yankey-Ayeh, whom I think I've interviewed like 3 times. She's a wonderful person. She came into top discussions, especially during the COVID-19 times when businesses needed to be supported and needed to see a certain gleam of light just around the time that there seemed to be a lot of difficulty. I think that that's been one of the key highlights of your journey as a leader. And then on my right, direct right, is Tonyi Sanaya. I remember so clearly when the former president made him a point of discussion in one of the State of the Nation addresses. I think that actually shot him to a huge fame after that. But I mean, he's been a famous entrepreneur producing beautiful shoes. And then Rancard, I mean, he's forgotten that we had an interview in his office sometime, I think about 4 years back. But Kofi Dadzie is a tech gig. I mean, the guy is solid within the tech space. He is a consultant, and then he's also a co-founder of Rancard Solutions. Joe Jackson. Tonyi was just saying that your name sounds like a revolutionist. And I believe you have done some great revolution, even within the tech space, and now, of course, in the financial services sector. He's the Director of Strategy and Business Operations at Dalex Finance, and you are solidly welcome. Our next presentation is going to be done by Kosi, and Kosi will just be giving us the perspectives of the transformation from what government has been doing so far. And so, if you're ready. Okay, we'll take a quick profile of Kosi and then we will come to her slides.
The Ghana Enterprises Agency, formerly National Board for Small-Scale Industries, where she was the first female executive director. GEA is an agency under the Ministry of Trade and Industry in Ghana mandated to strengthen and grow micro, small and medium enterprises. She has over the years founded and led the strategic development and growth of various projects for international and local partners, some of which have gone global. She has also raised and managed over $400 million and developed different entrepreneurial programs to support entrepreneurs, job creation, and micro, small, and medium enterprises in Ghana in the past 7 years. She received an Excellence Award for Academic Distinction and Distinguished Contribution to the Edward S. Mason Program from the John F. Kennedy School of Government in 2016 and is currently a Fellow at the IE University's Gurus and Griots Program and serves as a board member of the Venture Capital Trust Fund. She equally served on the Ministry of Finance Advisory Board and on the board of the Accra Digital Center previously.
Welcome, and Kosi, to the floor.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me. I think this is one of the most important conversations that we can be having as a nation in trying to build a transformative economy. And I think it couldn't have come at a better time than now when we're looking at how best to transform an economy that is coming out of a pandemic, and also when there's so many things happening around the world. And I believe that there's so much that we can do in trying to transform this MSME landscape. The goal and the focus should not be on one actor. All actors are very relevant and important, especially in the MSME space. When you're looking at government's role, you're looking at the private sector's role, you're looking at the role of the civil society as well as NGOs, and how we can all come together to support this sector to be able to grow and transform the economy in a way that we haven't seen before. I believe a lot has been done in the MSME landscape. And if you look at what has been done in Ghana, and if you look at the characteristics of the MSMEs in Ghana, you'd realize that they are mostly registered as sole proprietorships. Most of them tend to be strongly revolved around entrepreneurs or the managers or the owners. And rather than as a separate corporate structure with the right governance setup, you also realize they're very labor intensive than the larger firms and therefore have lower capital costs associated with job creation. They're mostly engaged in the retail, trading, or manufacturing. And all this is important and relevant for us to look at because that is what defines the work we're doing. And if we want to transform the economy, we need a better understanding of what these MSMEs look like. If we don't understand that, we can't be able to move them to the next level. Now, if you look deeper at that, you realize that women MSMEs in 2020, according to the MasterCard Foundation Index, the third largest were women entrepreneurs in the world, actually, in Ghana, and they were 36.5% of the economy. That is really large, especially when you look at the landscape and you look at MSMEs across other countries. Then you realize that approximately 80% of your economy is the micro, small, and medium enterprises. So to be able to build a transformative economy, you can't leave them out of the discussion or the conversations that you're having, and that they contribute close to 70% of your GDP. Now, if you have all of this and you take this information in, you need to realize that the importance of this sector cannot be, not even underestimated or talked about. But we have one major, it could be a challenge, it could be a blessing, but 70% of this sector is also highly informal. And when we say it's highly informal, it means that they are not playing a major role in the productive sector in terms of providing certain support, in terms of making it difficult for government to even understand who they are, where they are, and the type of supports that we can provide to them to assist in building that transformative sector. But government really looked at this landscape and in 2017 decided that we need to really provide some form of a strategic or policy direction. And to be able to do that, we needed to understand more and more the sector. And what it meant was that One, we needed a policy. For the longest time, this nation did not have an MSME policy. And if you have 70% of your economy not having a policy to provide and guide direction, then you did not really have an economy. And you did not have that sector as an interest. And so government and the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, during a cabinet meeting, approved of this national MSME and entrepreneurship policy, which was to prescribe policy direction. And more often than not, people forget the role of government in policy development. And that is the main role of government, to provide the policy direction and the prescriptions and use that and rally up the stakeholders to kind of drive that and assist it to drive that policy. So fortunately for us, we do have that policy. Now, what do we do with the policy? And so if you look at the work we did, one of the policy prescriptions was the transformation of the National Board for Small-Scale Industries into the Ghana Enterprises Agency. And that was really needed because we had an act that was governing an institution that was 30 years old at a time when there was no technology, at a time when the markets looked different, at a time when women's involvement, the youth involvement was different, and at the time when government setup was even totally different. So then we led to the transformation of the Ghana Enterprises Agency, the Act 1043, which came into effect in 2020 to guide the policy direction and pull the stakeholders to transform the economy. But we didn't leave it there. To be able to transform and provide direction, government came in to expand what we had, the business advisory centers and the business resource centers. Because we're talking about a transformative economy, and you can't do that if you're sitting in Accra or Kumasi. Because you need to make it rural, you need to focus on agriculture, and you need to go down on the ground. And to be able to do that, the business advisory centers and the business resource centers were designed and expanded from over 100 to now 209 in almost every district, and 37 business resource centers, which was to guide and ensure that we had one-stop shop for business development at the district level. Now, bear in mind that these infrastructures was not supposed to put the burden only on government, but actually to support and be a tool for private sector to take advantage of and leverage to provide the support. But in areas where private sector did not exist, in certain areas, we would then provide the support and the resources needed to build business support there. And then that led to the strategic policy. Now, before the slide of the overview, the policies directed at the MSME transitioning, and it's a big question that building a transformative economy talks about, that what are the policies that government is directing to support and transition MSMEs at a time such as this? Government at this time have come up with a lot of policy interventions. And if you look at the ministry under which I fall on, in the Ministry of Trade and Industry, there's a major 10-point industrial agenda that is being driven by the minister. And under that is the one district, one factory. If you're looking at industrialization, if you're looking at transforming the economy, we're looking at creating jobs for the youth, then we need to create industry. And that industry needs to support the job creation and the economic transformation. Then we looked at strategic anchor industries. What industries and sectors are favorable to support and to create the jobs and the ripple effect we're looking in an economy such as this? All hinged on really MSME development, because around the world, job creation lies on MSME development. They are the job creators. So government's policy direction of MSME development, which led to the transformation of GEA, was very, very important. Then there are other policies under the current government, which is the NEIP and really the U-Start, and policies looking at addressing limited access to credit and ensuring that subcontracting is also a major part of the policy direction to support. Now, this really has led to what the overview of the GEA, which is the new era for MSMEs, because you can't anchor all this policy in a vacuum. You need it hinged on really an institution. And if you look at the institutional functions on the next slide, then you're looking at how do we facilitate MSME access to finance and non-financial support. That means we are not driving it ourselves, we're facilitating. And if we do have the access, we provide that access. Now we also use and set up the delivery network, because there's not, let's be clear about it, business development is a lucrative business for private sector, but there are certain places that is not lucrative. Private sector will not go to my village to do BDS provision. It's government's role. And so government then comes in to complement the work of what others are doing to be able to build them. Because we can't leave out a huge population that the private sector is not targeting because private sector is not willing to go there. Public sector uses our delivery network in partnership, even still with private sector, to deliver, to support the formation of business associations and groups so that they can support and fall within each other, collaborate with national and international partners, because you need someone to coordinate that collaboration. It's a policy direction to be able to do it, because people cannot work in a vacuum. So the blame in MSME provision on it's only the private sector, it's only the public sector, cannot work. It's a work that involves everybody, and we've all failed each other, and we all need to work together to do that, leading to what we hope as one of the functions to support and work with private sector in the setup of this. And GA has provided a lot of these support systems, which is providing some little or zero interest loans and grants, providing startup kits in the next slide, as you can see, support and connection to financial institutions, which is a major one that we've done, business development services and accelerator programs. All of these are government's focus and direction to support the MSME ecosystem if you're looking at building a transformative economy. And there's never been a time when so much resources and support has been pulled and pushed to support the policy direction. And if you look at the next slide, it shows you a lot of the achievements of what has been done, and even in terms of job creation, even at that level. But we know and believe we can do extremely more. For the first time in the nation's history, in 2 years, over 300,000 plus businesses have been supported with access to finance, unprecedented. You know, even when Ghana was looking at providing access to finance, other countries within the African sub-region hadn't even looked at that. In terms of job creation, looking at the financial commitments in excess of billions to support, and looking at the interventions for the youth and providing that needed support for them, and also formalizing that informal sector. Then we look at the ease of doing businesses for MSMEs, which is one of the things that are very important for this. And if you look at the strategies in the slides that follow up to that, is that what are the strategies that government is radically looking at to increase the ease of business? And as I mentioned at the beginning, the first is really the MSME policy, because if you don't have a direction, where are you going? And that direction is really a radical change and shift in what we've always done as a nation. Then we also have the strong partnerships between private and public sector. And it's happening. And even these conversations engage us in terms of how do we make it better? How do we increase it? How do we decentralize the structures of GEA in radically increasing the ease of business? Because our offices provide that support to MSMEs and entrepreneurs where they can go and have access to registrar generals, have access to GIPC, have access to GRA, have access to all the support they need. And this is what makes the ease of doing business stronger. And then also using these systems to really create a platform for credit and access to finance. Because you speak to most people, they'll say, yes, access to finance is one. But what type of financing are we talking about? And so this real ease of doing business and putting in the system allows for government and allows for financial institutions and others to see that once you have structures and you're building your business for growth, it allows for getting access to funding and, most importantly, infrastructure development. And I think when we look at infrastructure, we're talking about roads, which is growing more in Ghana now. We're looking at digitization and technology. And if you pay attention, it's one of the Vice President's major programs in terms of digitizing the economy. Because you can't have an economy and you're doing ease of business when technology or digitization is not playing the role that is needed. And really for the pillars of strategic goals for us in really pushing that radicalization is, yes, even institutions such as ours, since I speak on behalf of that institution and I'm representing them on this platform, is really establishing a technology and really digitally enabled institution to make the ease of business stronger, to coordinate and establish a framework that ensures that we're able to better coordinate the sector, strengthen the sector, providing robust institutional structures, providing and making sure we're mobilizing the resources and financial resources to deliver on our mandate. Because there's one thing having a policy trying to radically change the sector and transform the economy, and not having the resources to do that, and also providing the support for a robust MSME support. But most importantly, we can talk about all of this and the ease of doing business when we don't talk about the human resource of the nation and the importance of that. And that if we do and put everything in place, if we don't have the real human resource, then we don't have anything. And we don't have it. So how do we strategically build that? And we're working on that with governments and private sector to support that. Then we talk about, so if we look at all these direction of government in terms of the policy and the GEA achievements and what GEA is doing to radically make the ease of business, what sectors are government looking at, and what are those strategic sectors? And for me, I'll just mention a few, which is the last slide in conversation that we want to have in terms of building what that transformative sector and economy would look like. And you can't do everything at once. It's really being very specific and intentional in providing that. And first and foremost is the agricultural sector. I think that for years, everybody has spoken about the agricultural sector. But how do we ensure that we're being intentional, even with our cocoa, even with fish, even with horticulture? How do we intentionally provide that? And so the strategic sector of agriculture is very important, especially now when you realize that even when countries like Ukraine cough, catch a cold, we all cough now. Because all over the world, if I speak to my counterparts in other countries, because we do have a network, and you speak to them, you see the ripple effect of simple things such as fertilizer, which comes out of other products from Russia, Ukraine, and others. You even have issues of where wheat used for bread, because unfortunately we don't provide or grow enough of that to support it. And so for us, really, agro-processing, agriculture, and processing that component of what we produce is really, really important. And a lot of work is being done, and a lot of things are being done by ourselves. Then you look at industry and manufacturing when you're looking at the automotive, and I think it's quite clear what is happening. And I think that a lot of these foreign car manufacturers have come in. But it's important to realize that the strategic businesses or sectors doesn't only rest in saying that, okay, we are providing and promoting car production. We're looking at the pharmaceuticals, which is one of our competitive advantages. You're looking at textiles and garments. We're looking at the integrated aluminum and bauxite, the same with iron and steel machine parts and petrochemicals that we've spoken about. But how do we move these sectors to the next level? How do we transform the economy, providing that? That is why there's a focus on these sectors. And the real reason for that is to build the industries that surround these major sectors, because that is where the job creation is going to come from. The job creation won't only come from just manufacturing the cars. It will come from the private sector and the businesses who will take advantage in creating or making the spare parts, coming up with other tools or support for those main sectors, and ensuring that they're creating jobs for the youth, that the youth are also playing a role. And also, most importantly, how do we use technology? Technology is a strategic sector. It's the center, the foundation of all that we seek to do. And the only reason is that that is the future. And if we're going to leapfrog and really say that Ghana is going to build a transformative economy and transform and move to the next level to support generations, we need technology. Technology is the foundation. It's what will change industry. It's what will change agriculture. It's what will transform agriculture and industry, so we can't do it alone without making sure that technology and the digital economy really is part of the major strategic sectors in industry. So in conclusion, thank you for this opportunity. As I mentioned, the MSME sector is a sector that is relevant for all. Not only private, not only public, not only NGOs or CSOs, but all of us. We need to work together to make it successful. If it falls, it's because of all of us.
Thank you very much, Kosi. And when Michael sent me the slides and I was looking at the arrowheads in terms of the places you would like to focus on, I said, so these three major focus areas, how do young people plug in? because they are all very capital intensive. Then I just remembered an interview I conducted when Peugeot was launching their assembling plant. And one of the key things is that simple things like coolants are still being imported. And this is like an allied business area that people could simply focus on, and they didn't really need high-ranking technologies to get them done. And so we will have to be very innovative in connecting to these huge businesses that are coming up. And then Tonyi talked about human resource, which is a major problem. He is a shoe manufacturer. He's looking for people to do business with, and he cannot find them. So these two are actually my takeaway from the session that you have just shared. We'll take a quick break, and then we will go to the next speaker.
Anywhere you dare, stand big dead out.
Akosia, I'm awful. I have to go deposit some money at the bank and buy some things at the mall.
Okay, but deposit money at this time? Which bank is still open?
Oh, Akosia. With a Stanbic ATM, even without your debit card, you can deposit money at the ATM. And you know the ATM doesn't close. It is 24/7.
Oh, wow. That's good, oh. You know, as for me, when I close late, I have to carry the money on me home with all the risks. And sometimes even when I'm asleep and I hear mosquitoes making noise in my ears, I have to wake up and check if the money is still there.
Oh, Akosia, don't make me laugh.
I'm serious, Dadzie. It's not easy for me at all.
Mean cable.
Hey, Beje no kobi view.
I'm off to the mall now.
Enterprise Insurance, in partnership with KEK Insurance Brokers, presents a collaboration between two giants of Ghana's insurance industry. The offsprings of the collaboration are Compextra, Third Party Amplified, Home Advantage, and Pet Insure. Wondering what these names stand for? Let me tell you a short story. Compextra. Do you want more from your insurance provider? Compextra is the solution you have been waiting for. For a little fee on your comprehensive premium, you can get these extra benefits: loss of use, cash compensation for alternative transportation in the event of an accident. You don't have to be stranded because your car is in the workshop. Misfueling, cash compensation for mechanical breakdown due to the wrong fuel type in your car. Enhanced PA cover for 4 additional persons you share your ride with. That is the extra value we provide to our motor comprehensive customers. Third Party Amplified. Did you know a motor third party policy does not give you any cover for your own car? Now, with a Third Party Amplified, you can make a claim on 3 significant parts of your car, such as the windscreen, side mirrors, and minor scratches. No need to worry about the Okada drivers who hit and run. Even with a third party cover, you are sorted for some damages on your vehicle. Home Advantage. Get a home insurance policy bundled with a pet cover at a great discount. Keep your pets as safe as your home. And now, whenever you think of insuring your home, think about getting a bundle cover like the Home Advantage. Pet Insure. Introducing the pet insurance for the first time in Ghana. Our pets are lovely companions. Love them, protect them. Our pet insurance covers medical expenses, accidental death, public liability, accidental injury, and more. Together, let's keep our pets happy, healthy, and protected.
GASM, with 50 years of experience, has various grades for various jobs. The GASM Super Rapid 32.5R is suitable for plastering, for the perfect finish, and all other jobs. The GASM Super Strong 42.5R is best suited for block manufacturing, among others. The GASM Extra 42.5N is the best choice for the biggest construction work. And now, the GASM Super Cool 32.5N, suitable for general masonry use and finishing. Never believe that one grade of cement can be used for all jobs. Choose GASM cement always. GASM, 4 cement grades, excellent customer value. GASM, the nation builder.
Well, so the next presentation that we'll be going into is really interesting because we will need the youth to be engaged, and whilst they are engaging, the youth is pretty much interested in technology. So will that be the key driving force for us to really get the youth employed? And no better person to do this than Mr. Kofi Dadzie. We'll hear some quick profile from him, and then we will come to his presentation.
Kofi is an entrepreneurial leader with rich experience building products, teams, and international partnerships to deliver innovative technology solutions. He co-founded Rancard, a technology company with AI-enabled customer engagement delivered in more than 80 languages, and currently advises organizations on technology strategy and risk governance. He is a non-executive director on the boards of Rancard, IC Asset Managers, and of MTN Ghana. Kofi is also a startup mentor with the Founder Institute and has served on Ashesi University's Corporate Advisory Council, on the governing board of Genius Hive Music Academy, and helped the MasterCard Foundation develop a strategy to empower young Africans in the digital economy. He's a regular contributor on technology evolution and startups in the global and African context, on platforms including Facebook, F8, TechCrunch, Startup Battlefield, World Bank, Econothon, Africa.com, and Springboard. He has contributed to technology patents at Dell and Rancard. He's certified in enterprise risk management and in regulatory compliance. He is also a fellow of the Aspen Global Leadership Network and a student of Shotokan Karate.
Well, so the focus for the next discussion will be the youth dividend and technology-driven economy. Youth dividend, youth bulge, basically looking at how the youth are not engaged, they do not have jobs, and so they end up, revolting or creating a lot of chaos. But on the other side, if they really have stuff to do and they are pushing in terms of revenue, they definitely will develop the nation. Kofi, welcome.
Thank you so much. And I would like to start by reflecting on points that struck me from when Mr. Yamson spoke and when Mrs. Kosi spoke as well. Asking questions, not continuing to be fixated in legacy models about how we look at our society and economy and the role of young people in it. Asking new whys and hows and looking for new models. That struck me. The other one was characterizing the youth as lion-hearted. That's very much at the heart of what I hope to present about the role the youth actually have to play in the economy. And from my sister Kosi's remarks, it was really, I think, around her final point where I felt like just getting up and clapping and jumping and shouting and saying, that's the one we need to make happen. The part where she said processing, where she was talking about the value chains around the critical sectors. But I wanted to ask, and that's probably where I'm going to go, is how do we actually make that happen? So my own journey, professional journey and transition, and at the point where I realized it was time to take a step back from a company I had co-founded and have others lead, is very much in line with what we are discussing today. It was time to let younger, smarter people take over and lead. I saw the founders of Google around the same time make a decision like that. I saw my good friend, Derry Dean of Dreamobile, take a similar decision at the same time. So I wasn't entirely lonely in that. I have folks like Joe Jackson here with me who showed the way a long while ago. But I would like to start with a thrust from a quote from Pearl S. Buck, who was a Nobel Prize laureate in literature, 1938. And she said, The young do not know enough to be prudent, and therefore they attempt the impossible and achieve it generation after generation. So today we're looking for whether a partnership among government, private sector or business, and young people actually has the potential to lead to transformative economic outcomes. So the first thing I think we should do is try and understand what does transformative mean in economic terms. So we're not talking about small, incremental change that you can barely feel, that you have to read reports to capture, and yet do not reflect. We're talking about something I'd like to call a pleasant shock, something that surprises you, changes what your experience is, but is pleasant. And there are a number of examples we all have in our lives. Some are mundane, normal, but they illustrate the point. For instance, on a scalding hot day, when you're out, outdoors and uncomfortable and sweating, and you step into a chilled room, and all of a sudden you feel different. It's not the long transition from noonday sun to evening that happens gradually. It's a shock. It's a pleasant feeling. And that would be one example. Another would be when you welcome a new baby into the world, especially when it's the first one you're welcoming. Hopefully, most of the experience from there is, it's definitely a shock, and hopefully most of it is also pleasant. But one that many of us can relate to over years in this country is when you've had days of power outage, especially back in the years when electric generator sets were not as proliferated as they are now. And on a hot, sweaty night, all of a sudden, boom, the lights are on. And you hear a whole neighborhood screaming, praising God. Not the ECG, but we all have different examples of what innately transformation feels like, what a pleasant shock is. And I dare say that if we're looking for how state, business, and youth transform the economy, what we're asking for is, can we have a pleasant shock? And maybe we can start by asking, what does the state bring? And we've heard Kosi talk about some aspects of that. What does industry bring? And then what do young people bring to the game? So the state, we know, we usually talk about policy. So the state has the big picture. The state often has a big purse, procurement, and usually it's guided by policy, national goals. Industry has tools, structure to focus on well-laid plans across target sectors and to drive productivity. So industry focuses and executes. But what do young people have? And I would like to submit three things. Young people have energy, young people have imagination, and young people have time. Energy, imagination, and time. Time is key because it means they can experiment, fail, learn, bounce back, and that's what the process of innovation is. So if you agree that these are unique assets of youth, then you also see how the state, especially when you look at the political system, often does not have a lot of time in which to plan and execute. We know that business is often concerned with, say, the cost of energy from any of the energy resources you look at. But young people have this. This is basically what characterizes what the youth is. And the other aspect of that is that young people tend to be extremely comfortable, not just with technology, but with a fast-paced change that technology disrupts our lives with. In fact, it's typically the government that's behind, it's industry that's catching up, but it's often young people who are racing ahead, inventing, embracing, and moving ahead. Now, If we start from what we see as some of today's existing arrangements between the state and the youth, we have some of what Kosi shared. We have organizations in Ghana like the National Youth Authority, which talks about providing a conducive environment, youth empowerment, facilitating investments in youth. You have other agencies like the YEA, Empower Young People to Contribute, talks about skills, internship modules to transition to employment. I think what's missing is, rather than crafting an agenda for young people, we need to draft young people to support the transformative national agenda. Young people are not a side game who need side support while we work at some national agenda. It's got to be the other way around. What is the national agenda? How do we harness the energy, the imagination, and the time of youth to drive that? And the first example I would like to illustrate with is my favorite Bible story, David versus Goliath. Because you had trained warriors and the warrior king with physical stature, King Saul, out there for days on end, being challenged by Goliath. Goliath today could be our health challenges, it could be our transportation challenges, it could be education, it could be food and agriculture. But you have this giant of Gath challenging the whole nation and them just not having any solution, nobody being able to go out. And who came to deal with it? A young man who was not a trained warrior, did not have policies, structures, big purse, budget, strategies, industrial agglomeration and aggregate. He didn't have all those tools, which do have a role, but what he had was imagination, because he actually talks about his analogies, what he's seen before, what he has challenged before. And as Pearl S. Buck referred to, I will put it differently. He was too stupid to be afraid. So he looks at the challenge in front of him, which, by the way, was not a youth challenge. It was not a youth agenda. That was the national agenda. That was the #1 national agenda. And King Saul, the head of state, had the wisdom in that moment, being stuck, to allow a young man who couldn't wear the armor, who couldn't wield a sword and a shield, who didn't have the accoutrements of a standard warrior, to bring in his technology, his mobility, his style, his youth, take on the challenge, the national challenge, and brought victory. After that, then the state and industry comes in, mobilizes, mops up, routs the enemy. But the breakthrough was led by a young person with their imagination and with a technology that they were comfortable with. That was not the mainstream. So technology, as Kosi mentioned as well, is the way to go. But what I would like to emphasize is that technology is not to be seen as something we go out there and acquire and bring in. Technology must be a culture. It must be that by default, as a people, from leadership through the ranks, when we face a problem, our first approach is, how do we break this thing down, analyze it, and who can design and implement a solution around it, and not to outsource our solutions and thereby outsource our jobs. It's to look locally, find young people, find innovators, put our most challenging national problems in front of them and ask them to solve it. And many of my friends know I love ancient history. And so I like to draw some original examples and learnings from there. Philip of Macedon was only 23 years old when he took the throne. He is not very well known. It's his son, Alexander the Great, who is well known. But it's what Philip bequeathed to Alexander that enabled him conquer the known world at the time. Philip innovated. He changed the entire military system of Macedon. He created a new spear that was the length of about 3 or 4 tall men, and a whole new system that the fighting phalanx, what today we refer to as the platoon, would use so that if a Macedonian phalanx faced their enemy, they would be wielding with the same number of men 5 times more spearheads at you than the enemy could bring to bear with the same number of men. Basically, he implemented a technology and a system that gave him 5 times productive output with the same amount of input compared to any of his enemies. So he first used that to rout Athens and Thebes and the other great Greek cities and pulled them together to form that great army, which his son Alexander the Great wielded to conquer the Persian Empire. Now, I'm saying that at the time he came on the throne and began developing this system in 359 BC, he was 23 years old. He wasn't 50, he wasn't 60. You don't have to wait to be old and wise of a certain nature to conquer certain problems, because sometimes, as our Nobel laureate said to us, the young do not know enough to be prudent, or they can be stupid. And therefore, they attempt the impossible and achieve it. And so there are times when the primary ingredient we need to the most significant national challenges is young people and the technologies that they are willing to invent, to innovate, and bring to the party. We can also learn from where we look to for technology, the proverbial Silicon Valley, which, by the way, I like to emphasize, it's not a tech park. It's not just about some physical structures. It's actually about an ecosystem of trust where you have academia, you have industry, you have the right policy environment, and the financial venture capital community playing together in a virtuous cycle to encourage young people to take the most significant problems of skill and the greatest opportunities out there, go at them, get all the support they need, fail, until they break through. And it's also instructive if we look at it from the big industry point of view. The companies we admire most, we often forget when they were small, and then we often forget how they grew, right? Because when we look at Facebook's new strategy and why they are called Meta today and why they want to go at the metaverse, at the heart of that is a company they acquired called Oculus that builds the virtual reality gear and the platforms they are innovating on. And its founder was barely 21 years old, in his early 20s, when the company was developed and they ultimately got acquired. A really young person. The story with the YouTube we know that Google acquired years ago is the same. It was a bunch of young people in their late 20s, early 30s, who had innovated so significantly that a giant out there thought, you know what, if we're going to go our next mile, let's look there. Why I'm pointing out these two examples is because in this nexus, state, industry, youth, one of the critical things that industry, big industry, has to play, and I'm sure Joe Jackson will share a bit more on this in his experience, in his journey as well, is there is a stage where industry must also look to young innovators and say, how do we support you? How do we partner with you? Is it strategic? Is it acquisition? Because you have the solutions, you have the imagination, the idea, and the energy, and we want to work with you. Big old industry doesn't always have the answers, but there again, the role that the state can play in enabling policy is to make it more attractive for large industry to cooperate with small organizations. If the example in which Peugeot was suggesting that some of the industrial liquids used, say coolants, might be manufactured locally, if some of those examples are really to grow, the state does have a policy role to play. And I would like to quote something from African News 2017. It reads, Nigeria no longer imports cement due to the efforts of the Dangote Group. It has also started exporting the product to other countries. This is something we see and we know. The point and the story behind it is there was intentional state policy around enabling a local company to grow, capture its local market, and then build the muscle to be able to go out and export. If you go back to the corn laws of the 1600 in England, or how the Japanese built their industries, or how other countries do it, you always need to be intentional about creating opportunity, locking down, and this is where I want to come to the point Kosi shared earlier on value chain, it's market access. Often we are investing in, let's give them skills, let's develop skills, let's do digital skills training. We go at skills, skills, skills. There's so many skills programs on top of our expanded school, free SHS and all of that, and yet we're struggling. Sometimes the conversation changes to, let's improve access to finance. Look, and in my entrepreneurial life, I did seek access to finance, and it's an important intervention. However, again, I don't think that's the fundamental intervention. The fundamental one is market access. If as a state, we define clearly, these are the sectors where we want to grow and focus, and therefore, these are the large, scalable market opportunities. The first and the next step is, who are the local players, local industrialists, local technology companies, local business people, whom we want to bring up and build to grow to own those markets. If you have the market, skills and capital is not a problem. If you have the markets, if you have them well defined, if the opportunities are scalable and attractive, the capital will chase you. You will find the skills, you will develop the skills, you will meet it. Even in the grand USA we admire so much, when the Pentagon, the US Department of Defense, had a program to develop a whole new Air Force strike fighter jet, they didn't just put out an international bid and allow the Japanese or the Europeans to come with their existing best models. They actually gave over $600 million research grants to American companies to go and build capacity, build a prototype, come back and deliver on equipment that now became an export to other countries, the UK, Australia, Israel, and the rest. I think when we talk about solving our national problems, one of the things at the heart of economic transformation is if young people can find sustainable, dignified work. And we're not going to see that. We're going to continue to experience Professor Bob Boateng's jobless growth phenomenon. We're not going to see a change and a transformation there unless we're intentional about market access, defined by we need to own the value chains around the most important sectors where we want to consume. Don't just give me capital. Don't just give me skills. Give me a market. Give me opportunity to actually go out there and build that business that can hire people, train them, and can attract capital. That's what young people are asking for. Young people are asking for, put Goliath in front of me. I will innovate. I will respond. And academia has a role, because that's where, it's not only where we're nurturing young people with their skills, but it's also where we are directing their minds as to how they need to orient themselves once they come out from there. So I think internships for people in tertiary and even post-senior high is a critical thing. And again, from a policy angle, there's got to be more support to encourage, provoke, entice industry to really open up and bring smart young people in at an internship level. I think the National Service Scheme has some of the elements of that. I think it needs to be expanded way beyond so that young people have a taste and a feel of what it means to go to work and be productive. I would like to wrap with a few recommendations, and they are basically, in essence, what we've talked through. It's one, market access, and it's two, aligning any attempt at a youth agenda, any attempt at supporting small and medium enterprises led by young women, any attempt at roping in the informal sector to engage more, should be aligned on the national agenda. I don't think young people need their own agenda to help young people somehow become something other than what is most critical to the nation. And I think market access, market access, market access. Skills are great. access to capital is great, but give me the market. Open up those value chains to the most critical sector. Create policies to prioritize that local young innovators should be able to dominate, lead, access, drive those value chains. And the capital and the skills to align with that follows on from there. So let Saul point Goliath to David. Give her an opportunity to innovate and respond to the most critical challenges we have as a nation. I think that's where breakthrough, transformative economic outcomes emanate from. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kofi. Thank you so much. For me, my takeaway, driving a proper messaging, so that we as a country know specifically where we're all going. I interviewed a professor for one university in Rwanda, and from his level, he knew exactly where the nation was going as a professor. What he told me was, Rwanda is not interested in producing anything because they don't have land, but their biggest interest is to export their services. And it is known by every Rwandese, and every single time that is what they're preaching. When you take a look at America, for example, it has 42% of the volunteer people who do volunteering across the world. They stay on this course, and it is a way of getting their youth to really become exposed to what is happening in the rest of the world, and to dream and to think of even what they would want to become as a result of some of these journeys. I'm a typical example of what a system can produce. I went to the University of Ghana, met a young man who thought I had a fantastic voice. I should go into radio. If we didn't have the systems, or we didn't have anything in place for a young person to try their hands on on doing radio or television, then I wouldn't have even had the chance at all. And there was Radio Universe sitting at the University of Ghana, and that's how I started my journalism career from level 100 in 2002. So I totally agree with you that the messaging is important, access to market is important. We should move away from having separate strategies and treating the youth agenda as a separate agenda, but it should become a national agenda that we're all driving at. Joe Jackson, it's not your turn, but I'll give you the chance. I will.
To acknowledge what he said and to say this was so succinct, and if there's anything I'm taking away from, I'm going to be talking about this. Bring Goliath before the youth David. That's really, it's if I could take any single thing away, I'll just say bring Goliath before the youth David. Kofi, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
That was great. Thank you so much. We're going to Tonyi, who is, I'm wondering whether you're still a youth now, but of course.
Well, I'm still in the brackets. Okay. Well, it depends on your definition, the age bracket, but then I'm still within the youth bracket.
But I mean, definitely you started business really young, and it will be very good to hear your perspectives. We will quickly take a profile of Tonyi, and then we will come back to your presentation.
Tonyi Senayah is a Ghanaian businessman and the Chief Executive Officer of Horseman Shoes, a brand that competes with international standards. He began the study of shoemaking in 2009 and a local shoemaker at La Paz in Accra, and in manufacturing company that produces men's dress shoes, unisex sandals and slippers, school sandals and safety boots. The brand has been featured in local and international media, notably CNN and DW Network. Tonyi ranked 9th as the most influential young Ghanaian out of a list of 50 personalities in 2015 and ranked 16th in 2016. He's regarded as Ghana's sensational and inspirational shoemaker.
Before we come to Tonyi, I'd quickly like to read a few comments that have come through on Zoom. This is Mukhtar Kamal Deen, who says, this is great presentation. Isaac Nimako says, the best way to achieve youth development, the best way to achieve youth dividend and technology-driven economy then is a national youth policy is a key, not political youth agenda. This is an insightful session, very informative, and this coming from Annie. And then Nana says, I'm really enjoying this totally. Then we also have something from Isaac. He says, this is the exact message of our dear youths. Thank you, sir. And then Sharon says, insightful, market access is definitely the way to go. Tonyi, over to you.
Good morning to everyone. I'm indeed privileged to be part of this distinguished gathering of captains of industry and stakeholders, not only to share ideas, but most importantly, propose practical steps to move entrepreneurship in Ghana forward. My conversation this morning will focus specifically on young people in business and small businesses, drawing inspiration from my own journey within the last 12 years of creating value in the leather craft industry through the Horseman brand. I am certain the struggles, the failures and successes of many young businesses are reflective of my own personal journey as a shoemaker. And to put this conversation in context, I will look at the role government have played and continue to play to developing and creating an enabling environment for small businesses not to only survive, but most importantly, strive through the policy interventions. I will kick my presentation started by talking about the mindset change that we need in this country. We have most often, at such occasions, focused the conversations on hard issues and given little attention to one most important factor critical for the economic turnaround of our country. All discussions will be meaningless if we do not create a cultural mindset and attitudinal change. Change and positive impact can only come if we, as Ghanaians, develop a mindset that encourages integrity, discipline, and discourages entitlement. The Ghanaians generally have very poor work ethic, and it is seen across various sectors, from civil service through to employees in private sector, among professionals, small businesses, and artisans. And I'm sure for artisans, a lot of Ghanaians would relate to it. Changing attitudes goes beyond mere admonition through speeches at national parades. We must, as a matter of urgency, treat our attitude towards work as a national pandemic and work to define what the national Ghanaian values are. This would require a deliberate, scientific, and systematic approach. Having said that, I would like to delve into what the policies interventions in the last decade has been. It is fair to acknowledge that all governments, post-independence, have recognized the role startups, small and medium-sized businesses, especially owned by young people, play in driving the economy. In driving the economy for growth and good future turnaround for jobs, income, and taxes. It is for this reason that some institutional arrangement to extend support to small, medium-sized businesses and build capacity for young people, such as the Ministry of Youth and Sport, the National Youth Authority, Ghana Enterprise Agency, formerly NBSSI, whose boss is here, Maslock, etc., were established. Over the years, these institutional arrangements have been complemented with initiatives such as the Youth Enterprise Support established under John Mahama in 2014, and now which has metamorphosed into National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program under President Akufo-Addo. The interventions sought to build capacities and fund businesses owned by young people for job creation through growth and business expansion. In similar vein, direct placement job interventions said that Jajida, now YEA, NAPCO, with it multiple models have also been implemented. The question we need to ask ourselves is if these interventions have really yielded positive and impactful results. From my observations, I don't think that they have truly succeeded. After 10 years of these brilliant programs and policies, what will be the monumental results we can point to? How many beneficiaries and businesses can we see have had great shifts? The lack of concrete results creates a worrying trend for these laudable interventions. The National Entrepreneurship Innovation Program reports on its website that 9,350 plus businesses have received funding, but we often don't see the documented report post-funding. And for learning purposes, I think that it is equally important we document the failure stories as well. The focus of the interventions has seemed to be on the quantity of beneficiaries rather than the quality of outcomes. This is because we have some of the previous interventions sought to do was to simply throw money at businesses and startups. But from experiences, small businesses need more than money to be sustainable. And this is why managers of the programs can produce long Excel sheets of beneficiaries, but not so much of desired impact. After the launch of the YES in 2014, the Alliance of Young Entrepreneurs, among other concerned, advocated that funding allocation should not be in messy drops, as in identify businesses, okay, you take 1,000, take 2,000. No, we said that if businesses needed 500,000 cedis, it was a 10 million fund. And if the 10 million could support only 20 businesses, we should have supported them. And we deliberately create champions in the various sectors. Small businesses need hand-holding in areas like technical support, access to market, as Kofi said, human capital support, business advisory. This falls on the doorstep of the Ghana Enterprise Agency. And it brings me to one major challenge within the ecosystem, the disconnect between the agencies. The programs are louder, but they are fragmented. Everybody does what they are supposed to do instead of being coherent and being deliberate to achieve a desired result. Small businesses, real or not, these interventions have also been over-politicized. Yes, it is difficult to delink politics from a program implemented by a partisan government. However, the perception or perhaps the reality that to benefit from a policy or to get support from a government agency, one must be an affiliate of a party or know someone in government. This does not permit real businesses in need of support to participate in some of the interventions. This inhibits people with genuine businesses from reaching out for assistance. There may be several ways to deal with this, but one way to resolve or to curb this practice is to appoint technocrats rather than political appointees. And Kosi, I'm not after your work, please. Furthermore, I also think that for long-term and sustainability of these programs, the policies should have a legislative framework to ensure continuity, regardless of change in government, and also to promote accountability. So this conversation of whether we had enough government intervention always lead to the definite conclusion that indeed we have had enough, but the challenge has been that it has always been poorly implemented. Nonetheless, the argument is not to discourage new interventions like the Youth Start program, but to promote learning and from previous ones to facilitate better implementation for the desired outcomes. I would like to look at TVET, the Technical and Vocational Education and Training. My spirited advocacy over the years for technical and vocational education is anchored by the perspective that a trained and skilled hand can produce to feed him or himself and others. Today, our world is in dire need of skilled hands to champion the rapid development of expected development in face of the challenges we face. And it is exciting to know that in recent times, TVET has been in the front burner of conversations around education, skills development, and employment. The worry for me, however, is that as it is with everything in this country, we will rather talk more and do little. The traditional way of apprenticeship, where young people who terminate their education at the lower levels go to learn vocation from a master craftsman, is dying out, if not already dead. There is a huge skilled labor deficit across vocations, be it carpentry, masonry, mechanic, tailoring, shoemaking. And it is more difficult getting skilled labor in these areas than getting money to boost your business. And this is the reason why we have people from other neighboring countries dominating in certain vocations. You know, according to UNESCO report 2017, only 1.3% of Ghanaian school-going youth were in vocational training in technical institutions. When you compare that to the top skilled country in the top 3 countries who have skilled labor in the world, Norway, Finland, and Switzerland, who had 23.6%, 21.3%, and 23.2% respectively. So you realize that it is not by accident, it is deliberate. In 2021, government announced that TVET has been made free, which to me is a great step. But beyond free education, we need to reorient the minds of the youth and also the entire nation that technical training shouldn't be a last resort for people who couldn't make the grades. It should rather be the other way around. Let's get our best minds into technical and vocational education. And indeed, that sector drives the economy in Europe. In 2014, I had the opportunity to be a CODVET role model, where we traveled around the country to speak and inspire people in the vocational training institutions and the polytechnics. The experience or the outcome of that program was that almost all the institutions, the students said they did not have opportunity or access to practical hands-on training. So then again, it even defeats the purpose of them attending those institutions. TVET schools deserve equal attention, like the grade A senior high schools, who are well resourced with qualified teachers, infrastructure, and learning materials. This makes it attractive and works against the stereotyping that it is for people who couldn't make a cut to the grade A schools. We need to be aggressive and deliberate about TVET because it has the potential to considerably solve the unemployment crisis. According to a report by the European Centre for Development of Vocational Training, the employment rate for TVET graduates aged 20 to 34 in the European Union region is 78.1%, whereas Germany is doing above the average of Europe. Germany has 88.4% of its graduates being employed. A group of Ghanaian economists, led by Professor Yankey-Ayeh in collaboration with the Brookings Institute in a study conducted in 2001, titled Industries Without Smokestacks in Africa, a country case study of Ghana. The findings, So Kofi spoke about technology, so I'll fall on technology here. Too. Okay, so I'm here.
Okay, great.
Yes, the study was conducted in January 2021. It identified the agro-processing and tourism as the 2 sectors that could rely on to potentially address the Ghanaian youth unemployment challenge and enhance competitiveness and productivity of small and medium-sized firms to realize the potential. The study, among other findings, made the point that, and I quote, build resilience through strong, adaptable skills. Strong skills, especially technical skills, resource management skills, are vital in improving the employability of the youth. Building a resilient economy resistant to shocks. It is therefore crucial to align training with ever-evolving needs of the labor market notably by giving more attention to practical aspects of the training programs. And this cuts across all sectors in the country. I'll conclude by saying that we have not said anything new. Kosi and Kofi, who spoke ahead of me, have mentioned some of the things that I have mentioned. And I'm sure Joe will also say the same. These conversations have been had at various forums in different and diverse dimensions. What we need to do is we have to walk our talk. We know what our challenges are. And I must say that the Ghanaian youth, in spite of all these challenges, have demonstrated ingenuity, resilience, and self-reliance spirit that only require a conducive climate for them to thrive. We have had enough government interventions. However, we lack the deliberateness and the commitment to make them work effectively to change the fortunes of our youth and by extension our economy. So my final words is, we know what we ought to do. Let's just fix it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's good to hear from a young person's perspective and the solutions that you profess, I'm sure, are being considered. For me, the impact stories are really critical. I noticed in Kosi's presentation that you said about 800,000 businesses had TIN numbers as a result of trying to formalize the sector during the COVID times. My question that will come to you when it comes to the Q&A will be, what have we used that particular data to generate after collecting it? This 800,000 people that we've been able to formalize in terms of getting them to have 10 numbers. Beyond that, what are we using the data for? What have we been able to glean even from these numbers, and what solutions have we professed afterwards? We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, Joe Jackson will give his presentation, and then we will go to Zoom and Facebook and take some of your comments as well.
What? Do you know how much I bought this car? Do you know how much I bought this car?
But making the insurance claim can take a long time. Not anymore. Enterprise Insurance now pays minor motor insurance claims the very same day. Yes, all claims for broken lights, cracked windscreens, and bumpers are paid the very same day. Just get your repair estimate, drive the car to the same day claim office at the Enterprise Insurance Airport branch, and get your valid claim paid on that very same day. Remember to get there before 3 p.m. on weekdays.
Same-day claim payment is proof that Enterprise is truly the fastest claims payer in the industry. So check your car insurance sticker and make sure it has the letters EIC. Enterprise same-day claim payment. Drive in and drive out with your money. Terms and conditions apply.
Enterprise, your advantage.
Can you invest in Fortune 500 stars and more? Can you help the planet and boost your wealth? With Standard Chartered Priority Banking, you don't need to stop and think. Investing with us goes further. We connect with global fund managers, select funds that suit your needs, bringing global expertise right here. We connect you to wealth opportunities that match your priorities. Join today.
GASM, with 50 years of experience, has various grades for various jobs. The GASM Super Rapid 32.5R is suitable for plastering, for the perfect finish, and all other jobs. The GASM Super Strong 42.5R is best suited for block manufacturing, among others. The GASM Extra 42.5N is the best choice for the biggest construction work. And now, the GASM Super Cool 32.5N, suitable for general masonry use and finishing. Never believe that one grade of cement can be used for all jobs. Choose GASM cement always. GASM, 4 cement grades, excellent customer value. GASM, the nation builder.
Just in case you just tuned in, you're on Metro TV, and we're having a fantastic discussion put together by Ishmael Yamson and Associates, and it's called the Ishmael Yamson Roundtable 2022, and we're looking at this transformative economy, the role that government, the youth, and businesses have to play. I would like to read a few comments coming from Zoom, and then Joe Jackson will have his turn with the final topic. So this is coming from Isaac. He says the best way to achieve youth dividend and technology-driven economy then is national youth policy is key, not political youth policy. Okay, I think I read that. He said, let's give the young people the chance to put their energy, time, and vision into transforming the economy. And this is coming from Joseph Goku. Then those are the visions to be embraced by Africa. And this is coming from Malate. Then this is the very message we need for our upcoming entrepreneurs looking at our current ecosystem. Very insightful. And that's coming from Clement. And then Francis says, City Work Hub is a digitized system that seeks to provide diverse solutions to the Ghanaian economy. This is a smart way of slipping in an advert. Then the next comment is from Nana. He says, very true, you can only get a job in government if you are affiliated to a party or know someone in government. This is so bad, very stressful. Ghana needs to take risk more. Every business is risky, and every Ghanaian must not be afraid of taking a risk. We have to walk our talk. My genuine question is, do we have assertive youth communicators? And then this is coming from Krishna Sami. It says, this is an eye-opener. I can see the difference between Ghana and Malaysia. Ghana has such potential to explode and be great if government policies and presentations of those policies are received by the correct groups. But they should marry the youth energy with the experience oldies. Joe Jackson, are you an oldie?
Oh, I'm an oldie. I'm an oldie. my kids are youth.
We'll take a quick profile of you, and then we will come to you.
Joe Jackson is a successful entrepreneur in Ghana and in Nigeria, and a recognized personality in the media and economic spheres due to his sound economic and financial analysis and excellent public speaking abilities. He was founder and CEO of the pioneer software house in Ghana, the Soft Tribe, for over 17 years. He also established a successful computer software business in Nigeria in 2006, which he sold off at the end of 2011. Upon his return from Nigeria in 2012, Joe turned his experience to corporate strategy and capacity building as a team member of Rainbow Consult. He was also influential in the development of strategy for the SME market at several financial institutions, including Fidelity Bank, Bond Financial Services, and Dalex Finance and Leasing Company Limited. And in 2013, his diverse skills led him to take up a long-term position in Dalex as Director, Business Operations, with additional responsibility for corporate strategy. His period with Dalex has seen an outstanding rise in Dalex's fortunes, including over 50% compound annual growth rate from 2013 to 2018. He has also been instrumental in the launch of the Dalex Swift Mass Market Investment Scheme based on mobile money and other technology channels. He's an expert in the use of design thinking for corporate innovation and growth solutions, and was cited in 2019 as one of the 50 most influential speakers in Ghana, and was inducted as a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Economists Ghana in 2021.
Jackson, before you take your turn, I'd like to read this message on Facebook. It says, the government's way of taxation is very bad. Thus, the youth can't engage in business because filing taxes in Ghana the SME way, this SME always suffers because they don't get the education before the taxes are introduced. There's hope for Ghana if government changes the way it deals with businessmen through the tax system. And then Uncle Joe, please kindly advocate on the way GRA deals with businesses when it comes to filing of taxes in Ghana. So that was to you. That's why I read it before you.
The great thing is that I'm actually going to deal with this issue. But first of all, thank you to Ishmael Yamson and Associates. I'm really honored by this, and I will give them more appreciation as I go along. But let's jump right in, right? And I really have to take off from where Kofi spoke and he did with regards to the fact that we have to put the Goliath before the David, which is our youth, and that we know what to do. My theme is that we will be saved by the MSME sector. We are in the midst of economic turmoil, right? And it's the SME sector that will save us, not the big corporates. And forgive me, not government. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I put up my mugshot because I want you to remember this face, right? Because I'm going to show you another face. That was me many years ago. I was handsome, sexy, slim. Michael, don't laugh too hard. And this was the Soft Tribe, which we founded in '91. And the reason why I'm talking about '93 was a critical period when, you know, in every institution, you are at that point where you really are floundering about. And you've started, you're excited, the excitement has died, and the dip has started, and you don't know what to do. '93, something important happened to us. But before I talk to what happened to us in '93, in 10 years, we had grown in software solutions. We had over 60 employees, right? Our valuation was over $2.5 million, right? And we had exported software across Africa. What happened between '93 and 2003 was very simple. We got a contract from Unilever. We call him Chairman Yamson. Chairman Yamson took a bet on two young boys who really didn't know. We were talking, now that I know what I know, I was wondering, how on earth were we able to convince this gentleman who was head of the biggest conglomerate in Ghana by a mile to take a bet on us and give us the contract to write the payroll and HR systems for every single Unilever, not just employee, every single Unilever employee, from tractors and equipment to benzo oil palm. That changed everything. That changed our lives, changed our fortunes. And in a lot of ways, even if I look at who I am today, I trace it to that day. So I say, thank you, Chairman Yamson. He turned 80, and we want to appreciate him. We want to appreciate him because he, for me, this story symbolizes someone who was prepared to bet on the youth, right? Did we know what we're doing? I'm not sure. But like you said, Kofi, we're so ignorant or so stupid that we could take this along and face that Goliath, right? So listen, we've talked about the potential, and it's clear, right? It's so clear. 70% of our economy is informal, and that's where the MSMEs sit. So anything that we're going to do that will transform this economy cannot be done without them, right? In fact, if you go to manufacturing, 85% of manufacturing is MSME. If you go on to talk about 80% of the whole private sector is MSME, and 92% of all businesses in Ghana is MSME. I like what you said. we cannot treat this as a game on the side. This has to be the game. This has to be the focus. This has to be, and you cannot have an agenda without incorporating this particularly unique group of entrepreneurs, this particularly group of people who have energy, enthusiasm, and are prepared to take on risks that are incredible with their own money, their own time, with their own energy. That's where the game changer is. But they face enormous challenges, right? And we've talked about this through access to finance. I sit in the finance sector, so I can tell you, we don't lend to MSMEs. And despite all their lip service, nobody really does. Tonyi, am I right? Nobody really does, right? But one of the biggest problems, and Kofi spoke about it, you spoke about it, is that as SMEs, your financial and marketing expertise is actually really poor. SMEs, we tend to focus on the doing. I'm creating shoes. I'm writing software. I have a salon, without realizing that the key is that you, the entrepreneur, if you're going to move to the next level, if you're going to make money, which is why you are here, you have to grow your expertise in finance and in marketing. So that's another challenge. Ease of doing business. I can start reeling off. DRE. The, what do you call it? The district and municipal authorities. Abaye. And it goes on and on and on. There's too much regulation in this for MSMEs. And it is disparate, scattered. Sometimes there's no logic. And it is subject to who is executing the policy at that time. And so you suffer in various ways. You don't know what is really what you have to do, right? And you don't know how to do it. I have someone who's running a pretty tiny hotel business. Today, the district assembly comes. Tomorrow, somebody else comes. The next day, DRE comes. The next day, tourist authority comes. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. The ease of doing business sucks in this country for that sector. And then, of course, you have to have access to technology. Sometimes the problem is not even that the technology is not available. And when I talk about technology, it's not just digitization. It's the masses of research that has been done by CSR that is sitting and underutilized. It's what is done at the West African Crop Research Institute that could change the face of agric, that is sitting and unused. And I could go on and on and on. That even locally, we have technology that we are not utilizing. And part of this transformation is addressing these issues, right? Of course, if you tell me about the solution, access to finance, it has to be digitization. See, the reason why I can't lend to an SME is that, where do I find him? How do I track what he's done? How do I get a digital footprint so that I can lend to him? Right? And if we pursue this digitization, and which has been, we're kinda on the journey. To say that we are not on that journey is not right. We are on the journey, but it has had fits and starts. Listen, when you look at Ghana, consumer debt to GDP is walking around 19%. This, I'm quoting 2016, right? If you go to Togo, it is 32%. Just because Togo has had a national ID system that has existed, that has worked for years. If you go to Côte d'Ivoire, it's higher. In fact, if you go to Togo, you will find that during COVID, they were able to identify the vulnerable, and send them help directly through mobile money. We couldn't have done that. So digitization would, and if you think that we are at 19% and we could easily be at 50%, take our GDP. Take 50% of our GDP. Financial institutions will finance that amount of lending to the MSMEs on their own back, if and only if they were digitized, so we could know who you are so that you can't run away with the money. And that's critical. So digitization is important. Of course, we've talked about the skills building. I mean, thankfully, Mrs. Kosi, Kosi's talked about a lot of stuff. Tonyi's talked about a lot of stuff. But I find that it is also very urban. And one of the things I'm proudest about is that facilitated by Serendipalm, which is a Malaysian organization that buys organic palm oil. We actually were tasked, and in my role in Rainbow Consult, we had training sessions for co-ops of women in Twi. Yes. And when you're talking about building skills, sometimes it's not just about sitting in Accra. You've got to go to the districts and the municipalities and speak in Twi and speak in Pidgin. And it was, for me, it was the most mind-opening experience to find these women who were extremely intelligent but couldn't speak English. And they were a co-op in the eastern region doing organic, what do you call it, organic palm oil, and exporting organic palm oil. And it was, so when we talk about skills building, it's critical. And it should not just be, it spans the whole range, technical skills. And bear in mind, there's something you said which is important, treating technical skills as secondary. Sometimes too, it depends on how much remuneration you are getting. Because people pay for technical skills in IT, and they don't begrudge it. Why is it that it's so difficult to get technical skills in the other areas? We must look at that and fundamentally understand that, because if I say technical skills in IT, people will queue up and pay. So there's something there that is different from when I say technical skills in welding or technical skills in all the other different aspects. Look at the amount of effort that young ladies are putting into growing makeup and other skills and are building businesses online. Obviously, there's a disconnect there which we need to fix. But skills building is important. As for the regulation and red tape, if I don't hold it there, I will go on forever. Because this is our beloved country loves red tape. Our beloved country loves, I'm Dalex Finance. I have a sales point in Tumu. Even in Tumu, the district assembly will come and chase me. GRA, some small GRA officer there will come and demand something. And they will come and they will come. And this is Dalex Finance. I wonder how it must be for a small business. And the red tape. You see, if I had one recommendation, I would love to have a single authority who will deal with everything. A single place where I can understand what are my obligations. It is too easy to say Ghanaians don't like to pay tax. It is too easy to say Ghanaians don't want to do the right thing. That's a cop-out. Right? We must pay taxes. We must do the right thing. Sometimes it is because it is too hard. That's the problem. Right? And even as MSMEs, within ourselves, we must form knowledge groups. We must form knowledge, and I call them knowledge groups because they would depend on sector, business, but something must happen even within ourselves. Because SMEs, by our very nature, we are small, we are tiny. It is only by coming together that we can move forward. So part of that transformative agenda has to deal with all of this. Right? Those are the solutions. But I haven't ended my matter. We are in turmoil. You see that? We see that each day, and I see a country where unemployment is booming. I see a country where debt is unsustainable. I see a country where there's extremely high inflation, which is scary. Right? We'll soon get to the point where maybe the most vulnerable have to start skipping meals. We see a country where a currency is run away and is fueling all these problems we are having. The key is we need to be saved by the MSMEs. And I have a few little recommendations. They are different actors. The MSMEs themselves are an actor. The large corporates are an actor. And, of course, government itself is also going to be an actor. And with the MSMEs, and listen, you cannot be an SME as an MSME unless within yourself you build a certain innovative spirit. And that is what I will call the David spirit, borrowing from my new quote for the month. It's the David spirit. How do I do new things? How do I take on new things? Right? And it's a mindset thing. Right? And unless you build it into your business, you build it into your reality, it won't change. You can't do, you have to do different. And doing different may even be an end in itself. Right? You've got to solicit opinions. You've got to involve the people that are around you. You've got to invest and cultivate that mindset. That you can't skip. You've got to acquire skills in marketing and finance. Going to market is everything. Your business is without a market is nothing. You've got to acquire business. You see, it's easy to say, I don't have access to finance. If you come and sit in front of me, I'm pretty bet that your financial skills are zilch. If your financial skills are zilch, as a small business, stop even dreaming that you get money. Right? The only place you get money for is what we call the FFF. Friends, family, and fools. If you want to get money to move your business forward, get those skills. Go digital. It's an imperative. You don't have a choice. Right? Digital broadens your market. Digital gives you access to a whole new, so you have to go digital. And forgive me, I've heard increasingly SMEs talking about there's a very emotional reaction, for example, to e-levy, right? Where people are prepared to drop the business because of e-levy. E-levy is just another hurdle you have to face. Deal with it. That's why you are young. That's why you have energy and zeal, and you are David, and you can face Goliath. Face that e-levy. Pay it and move forward. It grows your market. Look at all the markets it's opened. Now I sit in Choco and I deliver something to somebody in whatever area in Adenta, and the delivery boy takes my money and brings it back to me, and it's paid by Momo. Please go digital and don't let a single hurdle stop you. My message to you is that, listen, they're young, they shall grow. They're young, they shall grow. It's a world of opportunity. If you're going to transform, if you're going to beat this, if you're going to save this country, the young shall grow. As for large corporates, straightforward though, give us a chance. Give young people a chance. I am who I am today because Chairman Yamson took a bet on me, right? We talk about Horseman shoes. Somebody took a chance on it. And boom, his business has changed. You got to take a chance. And big corporates, large corporates, in this discussion must come to ask ourselves, how can we give the youth of this country a chance? Of course, they are risky. They don't know what they're about, but you've got to give them the chance. You've got to support them. Some of it is using your own CSR funds to develop MSMEs. I wish 50% of all CSR funds in all organizations will actually go towards MSMEs. And just be deliberate about it. Grow SMEs that will bring you in your business and provide you with services. But use your CSR funds, grow them, develop them, get new champions. Somebody made the Soft Tribe a champion. That's why I'm here today. Somebody made Horseman a champion. Each corporate should ask itself, who have I made a champion? And this one is important too. Large corporates bully us as MSMEs. Even when they give you a chance, they bully you. Pay us on time. Our money is hot. Rancard. Pay us on time. Don't bully us. Right? Don't, you see, because you don't stretch and tell me that you pay me my invoice after 90 days. After 90 days, how do I eat? Pay us on time. Large corporates, recognize them. Take on other large corporates and ask them for 90 days suppliers credit. MSMEs, pay them. Pay them. My message to you is help the young. Help the young. You've got to help them. And I must say, I'm constantly on the lookout in Dalex Finance to give somebody to pay forward. How can I do to somebody what Chairman Yamson did for me in 1993? Right? And each of us must find a way to help the young as large corporates. As for government, Kosi, I hope you are listening. You're not government. You see, government, in a lot of the actions that it has taken to date, has actually sapped entrepreneurial zeal. When you do something like NAPCO and GIDA and you pay people all these pretend salaries, you sap the entrepreneurial zeal. You are not the one who creates jobs. Get out of the job creation market. You're sapping the entrepreneurial zeal. If you want to do something, get the MSMEs to create the jobs. Every time government tries to enter this market to create jobs, all that is doing, it is actually distorting the market and sapping the entrepreneurial zeal of people who can do better. If I am, you see, on here, on my gen, life is tough, right? Don't give me a mark job, a pretend job that will now make me cozy enough to stop thinking and to stop wanting to face Goliath. Create the conditions where people will actually go out and be entrepreneurial, because that's the only option open to them. If you want to help them, take money. Don't give money through these institutions. These institutions, when they give money, whether we like it or not, everybody's expectation is that it is chop money, literally. So the zeal to pay back is minimal. Use the private sector. They will collect the money. It's not sexy to go and give money to somebody else, to a rural bank, or to a microfinance, or to a finance house to distribute. Right? It's not sexy. But don't do it. Again, you distort the market. You sap the entire. So actually, they say that part of this transformation is that government itself, despite the lip service, is actually sucking the energy out of the MSME sector by its interventions. That its interventions are distorting the markets. And the only thing we can guarantee is that SMEs operate in markets. They're not formal. They don't get government contracts. They're market driven. And when you distort the markets, you're killing them. And you know what? The worst part is that government has tremendous market power. It's the biggest employer, the biggest supplier, but government never takes a bet on MSMEs. Government doesn't give MSMEs contracts. All the contracts go to large companies. challenge the government and I say, tell us how many contracts you're going to give to MSMEs. You have tremendous market power. And yet that market power is being used for large corporates. See, when we say we are not the youth and MSMEs, they are not a side gig, but they are the agenda. Make them the agenda. Tell us how much you've used your market power. And obviously reduce regulation. Simplify it. MSMEs should pay taxes. I'm a great believer that despite all the issues we may have to pay the e-levy because there's a whole new market growing that is outside the tax system. I'm a supporter of the e-levy, and I do it with my chest out, right? Even though on the first day of the implementation, I was refused dinner at home because my household doesn't like it. But that's fine. But that's fine. You know, my message to you is get out of the way. Get out of the way. Stop those interventions that actually make things worse. Support them through the private sector. Support them through the financial system. Support them in a way in which it will not distort markets. Get out of the way. So I'm bringing this on end, though. Saving Ghana. The SMEs, I tell you, don't worry. They're young. They shall grow. And to the large corporates, I say, help the young. To governments, just get out of the way. Thank you very much.
Well done, well done, well done. Thank you so much, Joe Jackson. One of my key takeaways, which I'll connect to the continental free trade conversation that has been going on. For, since it started. I was shocked about a month ago when I moderated a session by Ayah that there wasn't a single company that was fully registered under the continental free trade yet. And for me, that's like a huge market that has been created. And if we haven't been able to do these things to leapfrog and be one of the first countries to really take advantage of such a huge market, then there are issues connected to it. Then also financial skills development for entrepreneurs and the need for us to understand the space. Otherwise, we're not up for any investments or interventions is also critical. I'm sure that even at GEA, you must have some financials to really show in order to have some interventions being done. The fact that government should stop doling out money and take it through the financial system and make sure that people really pay back. For me, I think that could get controversial, right, Tonyi? But it's something worth discussing and looking at various perspectives of it. There's a gentleman here that we would like to give the microphones to speak about some interventions that he has received and how this has helped his business. He's Maxwell Chumberima, and his business is Green World Grocers. Yes. Maxwell, go ahead. Just share your perspectives, then we can start.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor being here among these giant industrial players, and they are telling us their story. I'll call him Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe has said a lot about how someone gave him the opportunity, believed in him, even though they were young. The same opportunity was also given to us by the Ishmael Yamson and Associates. Last year, we were here during the BRT 2021. We joined actually on Zoom. We had a lot of interactions with them. Then we met them personally in their office. They also saw us young and hungry. They believe in us, even though sometimes we said, Uncle Joe said, SMEs sometimes their finances, they suck. They don't get the things right, but they need a little coaching and they'll be okay. So they help us with our business plans and whatever we wanted to do. We're actually into pineapple production, Greenwood Flourishes. I, together with my other colleagues, we met them. Then they gave us a grant of $700 last year. We are into pineapple production. Then we are also exporting the idea to other people. We are bringing people who are interested in pineapple production. He called us the Uber drivers of agriculture. It's like you buy us the car, we work for you. The same thing, we are importing that idea into the pineapple sector. You give us the money. We don't have the money. You give us the money. We farm on your behalf. We have farming locations in Sawampo, Chrome. Then we have another farm location in Kofi in the central region as well. And we are into the pineapple production. There's a huge area. There's a huge benefit in the pineapple sector that we can leverage on. The export industry is there. Even the local industry is a huge market that everybody can go into. And that's exactly what we are doing. Currently, because of what we are doing, we have been able to expand. Currently, we have started with a 10-acre pineapple project. Then we have also gotten people who believe in the idea of the Uber drivers of pineapple. They've bought us the cars, they've given us the finances, and we are farming for them. We have about 5 clients now, and currently we are making progress as time goes on. Yes, we are young, we are hungry. We are also ready to make the mistakes as well as correct them. Uncle Kofi said we have the time. Yes, we can make the mistakes and correct them while we are still young. And that's one of the impacts that we have been able to make going forward. Currently, we are looking forward to projections of, our profit. We got $700, but currently we are in the range of about 32,000 when we are able to harvest all our pineapple. We are doing 1 acre, but the 10 acres is about starting. The 10 acre project is about starting. So whilst we are here, we are also calling on board. We are not done yet. As Uncle Joe said, the young shall grow. We are growing, and we are still in progress. Thank you very much.
Well done, well done, well done. There's supposed to be some certification. Well, I'll quickly connect this to another business support award of 10,000 cedis that Ishmael Yamson and Associates is giving out. Just follow the social media platforms. There's a link. You can register, and then you must be between the ages of 18 and 35. And so just go there and click and then follow the prompts. We're taking a quick break. We'll be back with a Q&A, and then we shall close the curtains on the discussion.
Mobile, always close. Just tap the app. It's doing the most.
Ojam, who crowd no insurance?
Talking car power. Yes, of course. I have a third-party policy.
You mean third-party amplified?
Which one too is that?
Enterprise Insurance has introduced the third-party amplified. With this policy, you can make a claim for damages to your windscreen, side mirrors, and minor scratches on your car. It is sweet and simple, cry.
Oh, sir, we are sure.
Sure, pa, feel.
Oh, then let me go and get a third-party amplified policy. Nah. These motorbikes and the way they keep hitting our side mirrors there. I need a third-party amplified cover.
Third-party amplified, ye boy.
Talk to your insurance broker or agent now. Call or send us a WhatsApp message on 05533 28333 or 050 957 0353. Powered by Enterprise Insurance and KEK Insurance Brokers.
GASM, with 50 years of experience, has various grades for various jobs. The GASM Super Rapid 32.5R is suitable for plastering, for the perfect finish and all other jobs. The GASM Super Strong 42.5R is best suited for block manufacturing among others. The GASM Extra 42.5N is the best choice for the biggest construction work. And now, the GASM Super Cool 32.5N, suitable for general masonry use and finishing. Never believe that one grade of cement can be used for all jobs. Choose Gasem Cement always. Gasem, 4 cement grades, excellent customer value. Gasem, the nation builder.
Welcome back, and if you are lost as to what's happening here, it's the Ishmael Yamson and Associates Roundtable 2022, and we're having a fantastic discussion on transformation being led by government, youth, and businesses. We have a contribution from a contributor, which will be played by the studios. And then when we come back, we will have a general discussion where you can all ask your questions in relation to studio audiences, people on social media, and everyone who wants to ask a question. Let's take the contributor's contribution, and then after that, we will come and ask our questions.
Hello. My name is Mame Dahir, a policy analyst and public health professional with the Government of Canada and a founder and executive director of the Power of Love Foundation Canada. I am enraptured to be contributing to the 2022 edition of the Ishmael Yamson and Associate Business Roundtable, which seeks to explore the social, ecological, and economic transformation of Ghana from the perspectives of government, youth, and businesses, as well as examine the new economic approaches, innovative policies, and concepts that would transform the present difficulties into more prosperous circumstances. As an adept public health professional, I will be contributing to this discussion on building a transformative economy in Ghana from the health and public policy perspective. Indubitably, the onset of COVID-19 within the last 3 years not only impacted health systems, but shattered the core of powerful nations, social and economic systems, and immensely demonstrated how a lack of structures, economic systems, and intervention, public health-related preventative measures could impact global economies and socio-economic equality. Subsequently, in order to build a healthy, transformative economy in Ghana, it is expedient to build evidence and enhance community-led, culturally focused health interventions that address health and its determinants for diverse communities in Ghana. Regarding my contribution, the transformative economy theme that I will address in regards to this participation is in relation to all key stakeholders being involved in a hands-on decision-making culture, where as a society, we define how we want to live, prosper, and secure the socio-economic future together. In order to build a transformative economy, being inclusive of all stakeholders is vital. Stakeholders such as families, community members, people in the health system, the government, to mention but a few, can amalgamate to develop a hands-on decision-making culture that would mitigate inequality and other health disparities. This unquestionably has direct links to long-term economic success. Stakeholder engagements are advantageous and salubrious as the key contributors are quite adroit, adept, and proficient in making strategic decisions, minimizing risks, and growing a transformative economy. Stakeholders are beneficial in anticipating potential problems whereby, due to their extensive backgrounds and levels of experience, they are able to see a bigger picture and further foresee potential issues that might arise in economies and systems. Moreover, key stakeholders are solitary to decision-making, where they're able to understand the views and interests of populations and communities, and further provide an opportunity to reflect on what will and will not work and why. Furthermore, in building a hands-on decision-making culture, stakeholders aid with improving risk management through potentially highlighting issues that we may not be able to be aware of, and to also help in prioritizing them. Lastly, stakeholders aid in addressing global sustainability challenges. Another significant theme to highlight is the aspect of a more balanced livelihood for citizens in a transformative economy, which involves more economic inclusivity and also able to lower the levels of income disparity and inequality. During the onset of the pandemic, it was quite evident that marginalized and equity-deserving populations were most affected, partly due to income disparities and inequalities, as well as inequity. Therefore, it is expedient that we create a more inclusive economy, which is vital to lowering the levels of income disparity and inequality that is prevalent within our societies. To conclude, promoting health equity, developing a greater global integration, as well as introducing modern health technologies across the key sectors of the economy are key beneficiaries to building a transformative economy. These can be enforced by engaging community-based organizations, researchers, and others in the communities to generate new evidence on culturally focused programs and interventions that address health and its determinants. Furthermore, this work would include undertaking knowledge development and capacity building efforts. In building a transformative economy, the key stakeholders must begin with a clear understanding of the nature of the new economy that the state intends to address and develop, and also address such structural weaknesses in our current economy. This pursuit is important for three primary reasons. Reason number one, to provide strategic advice and recommendations that would advance the promotion of health and well-being for Ghanaian communities. Secondly, providing essential guidance on capacity building and knowledge mobilizing. And lastly, and contributing to strengthening evidence on health and its determinants for Ghanaian communities. Thank you once again for the opportunity to contribute to this amazing roundtable. My name is Mame Dahir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mami, from Canada. And we're back to the studios where the discussion is going to continue. I'd like to give Kosi the floor to react to some of the what I call it misinformation, and of course handle some of that from the government perspective, and then I will give the floor to all other members to make quick contributions, and then the floor will be open to the rest of you sitting in the studios and those watching us from home. So over to you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting and lively conversations. I've learned a whole lot from all the panelists. I think that there are a few issues that we need to address. And as I was telling my dear brother here, for lack of knowledge, my people perish. Since we're on a biblical David and Goliath moment. There's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of information. And I think one of the things I've learned from this is how we communicate more to the public. Because one thing is, government is not here from my side as Ghana Enterprises Agency to crowd out the space for the private sector. Our goal is to partner. Our goal is to create that enabling environment, and that is what we've done. And so when I take it back to the last presentation, there are a few things that I want to clarify. I know the Togo model because she's an alum of Harvard, where we both went to. And because it was grant funding, it was easy to use Momo as a technology. Now, that is exactly what we did at Ghana Enterprises Agency when COVID happened. And for the first time in the nation's history, we used a technology platform to deploy access to funding in ways we had never done before. So for the grant component, which was just a specific percentage of the entire funds that government had earmarked for COVID funds, it went through mobile money. It went through 3 stages because of access to their IDs, which was also validated, which was tied to a TIN number that validated their real information, and then was triple tied to a GIPS system, which was validated by the name that goes out. And so that system was put in place intentionally to avoid fraud, to avoid duplication in payments, and ensure that beneficiaries get access to funding. Now, the second thing we did was that as government, we didn't want to come in and play the role of participating financial institutions. So we sat with participating financial institutions and said, we're going to do something that you have never done before. which is give access to finance to over 200,000 people. You can't do that in a year. No bank in Ghana can tell me that I can actually assess and reassess businesses of even 1,000 in a year. It's not possible based on the systems. So we sat with participating financials and said, government is not going to hand over money to people. So work with us to build a credit model behind our technology platform to do your first leg of assessment for you. And so we did that first leg of assessment and gave scores for that to happen. Then those ones that went through were given to the participating financial institutions who came back with information and said, don't give the school, they have a loan, they have a credit issue, they haven't done that, so we're not going to, we disapprove as a bank. Of course, it's a system. So even if you're government and people say that, oh, it's politicized, even if that's my brother, if the bank rights don't give it, the audit trail is real. So it's not going to happen, right? And so the participating financial institutions and the private sector played a key role. The associations played a key role because they know their people and supporting and working with that. My brother here wrote me behind the back doors on WhatsApp to also get some of the funding, right? But it's so easy to attack government, right, through one of his partners. But that is how it is, right? We fight the same system that we create as we create the monsters and try to fight it. And I think it's very important. One of the things we did was that people were even identified on the system by a code. And more government wants to upgrade and move to that level. That enhanced system allowed us to give numbers we've never done before. Now you asked about the impact. People are doing impact. The impact is being done by us because we have a research, monitoring, and evaluation team and a department. Outside of our systems, the World Bank, UNDP, GIZ, Ghana Statistics, they're all running impact assessments real time. I tell people I'm the most audited institution. I'm audited over 6 times in a year, all also following up on impact. In the recent impact assessment that was done by UNDP, World Bank, and Ghana Statistical Service, when they went on the field, due to our interventions, sales of small businesses had increased by 22%. Unprecedented. Businesses that had closed down, 50% of them opened due to our interventions. Due to our interventions from the first wave to the third wave, 30% who were using mobile money for transactions, due to the way we set up, due to our digitalization interventions, increased almost up to 50, close to 60% in usage of mobile money for business transactions. So I think that it's very important for us to realize that a lot is happening. We give the numbers because people want to see, did you really touch the people that we asked you to touch? And yes, we are touching the numbers. We train in Dagbani, Arabic, Tree, Ga, Ewe, and that is why our decentralized system is very important. And we are set up in a way because when there's no funding, private sector does not go there. If there's no profitability, no private sector would go to Bole Bamboy, what is it called, Ahiniase, to go and do training. If I send you and I say, go and train, you say, what's in it for me? That's my job, but what's in it for me? What am I getting? But that doesn't mean the people should be disadvantaged. So that is where government comes in. So government cannot get out of the way. We work hand in hand because if you don't go there, we have to go there. Somebody has to go there. And bear in mind, we've created a system where we have a platform and we're developing a more enhanced platform for business service providers who are private sector. So they are the first people we contact. So even when there's training or programming, we contact them first. Now, when we don't have money and they won't take the work, our people have to be trained, and we train them so they can do the first level of intervention. Because financial literacy, business development, entrepreneurship support, all these are things that are happening there. And I think that it's really important for us to provide that support, and we continue to do that. We believe in creating the giants. And I think COVID taught us that the interventions we did under the COVID pandemic actually allowed us to also see the giants. And in our next interventions under the Ghana Economic Transformation Projects, we have invested in some of those giants, some of who are youth, who are part of the national agenda. There's a youth and a national agenda. It's not two different things. It's the focus and intervention. It's like having a women in a national agenda. The women are part of the nation. And so the agenda is to ensure that we build them. And with the statistics we got, as you asked me, yes, we have a lot of data. That was the beauty of technology. For the first time, government had data we had never seen before. And we were able to sit back and say, yes, we have a lot of women in businesses. Out of the funds that we put out there, 70% of it went to women, but they requested for almost 50 or 40% of the funding. Why? Because their businesses are micro and they don't grow. So now what do we do with the data we have? So interventions have now been designed under the Ghana Economic Transformation to intentionally look at the women businesses that are in the micro sector. So data is being used. We have it. It's not sitting on the shelf. And there's nothing wrong with it for us to, just sit and look at it. But we're using that data. That's why we launched the We Rise, Women Entrepreneurs Rise, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, because we saw the importance of such a network to create access to markets, to trade amongst themselves, to take advantage of AFTAC, which is also part of government policy and direction, so that it all ties in, so that at the end of the day, we all live as one happy family. There's not one against the other. It is together, because if we don't come together to do it, there will be challenges. And yes, more needs to be done, and more needs to be done on the private sector and public sector lens. And that is why these roundtables are important, so we build from there. Thank you very much. I have a lot to say, but timing is not.
Yes. Any quick interventions?
Well, I think what I want to bring us back to is what I mentioned in my opening remarks, that the key issue remains that at the end of the day, our global competitiveness is what will tell us whether we have done the right things, focused on the right issues, and whether there is any value to all the effort and resource that we are going to expend. Now, if we put SMEs at the center of the national strategy, we have to remember, and we've all talked about it, human capital, innovation, and wealth creation by SMEs are going to be really important things. So, yes, it's good to give money to SMEs, but we've also heard it's good to give them skills. It's good to give them the ability to turn their skills into innovative products. We cannot forget those things. But in doing all of these things, we must remember the game is to be globally competitive. Now, in order for that to happen, we have to remember there's a critical element, intellectual property. In many of the conversations around SMEs, we almost assume that they are so small that they are not going to be able to generate intellectual property. But I've lived in Côte d'Ivoire, and I've seen what SMEs, even the way they pack cassava, it is a skill all in itself. Go and see how pineapple is prepared for consumption in the streets of Abidjan. There's innovation there. Go and look at how they package groundnuts. It's a wonder. We have chobas, they have maquis. Experience an Ivorian maquis and ask yourself, why is it that our chobas cannot even rise to that level? Intellectual property appears in all shape and manner. And we have to understand that in helping SMEs, we also have to help them to understand where they are generating intellectual property that can make the difference. That means this thing we call private initiative that we've talked about, we have to look at it critically. It also means that when it comes to investing in human capital, we must be very deliberate about it. It's not, scattershot, investment that we are thinking about. We're looking for giants, we're looking for champions, but we also have to be particular about the kind of champions that we want. We don't want champions who are doing what will not give us global competitiveness. They may be big, but if they are big and they are going to be small in a global pond, we are not interested. We must find different ways of helping them. But SMEs have to be brought to the fore so that when we talk about this phenomenon of creating a favorable economic environment, as Joe said, it's not about the big players alone. We must be very careful about making sure that that favorable economic environment favors the SMEs, who we have all now understood. They are women, they are young people, they are the greatest number of enterprises, they have the highest growth rates, they have the greatest potential to create capital, to form capital in this economy that can stimulate long-term growth. All that I will say is that we must become obsessed about SMEs. And that means we must become obsessed about the youth. I know I cannot get away with it if I don't say we should also be obsessed about women, because Kosi has talked about it. 70% of applications, but 40% of the money. There's a disconnect there. So we must be obsessed about SMEs. We cannot be obsessed about growth if we don't become obsessed about SMEs. It's about time. Global competitiveness is the game, and the answer is the SME. I rest.
Thank you very much, Michael Yamson. And I'd like to just chip this in, especially when I think Joe Jackson spoke about CSR. And I've had several conversations with several businesses on strategically positioning their CSR, even to attract the needed media. And one of such businesses that has done it right, I think, is Zen Petroleum. Now they have 200 truck drivers who dispense their fuel, and all of them are women. And based on that, they have, I think, they're one of the few companies in Ghana that gets media, international media attention on like a regular basis. That's when you go to them and you say you want to even offer them something locally, they say we're really not looking there. So how we even position the CSR to even take the business also global, because you're talking about turning our local businesses into global brands, is critical, even with the kind of CSRs we decide to choose. And choosing women is always right, eh? It brings the results. And youth. Zen Petroleum, yes, yes. So, Tonyi?
Well, I would also want to mention other issues that I think that need attention. That is rent. I mean, we have a rent act that says that businesses or people are not supposed to pay rent for more than 6 months. But here we are, we have young businesses who will tell you that they work from home, they work from their car boot. It is not their desire to work from their homes or their car boot. It is simply the issue of coming up with at least 2 years rent. And if you are in our kind of business and you want a certain location, they are looking for 5 to 10 years. So it is also part of the deliberateness to make business easy for young people. And then I would also want to talk about access to market, as Joe put it, deliberately building capacity of small businesses. You apply for certain jobs, certain contracts, you are told that you don't have the capacity to meet the minimum requirement. And sometimes it's not as if they are giving it to other local companies, they are important. So why don't you deliberately give quota system to small businesses who can deliver, and gradually you deliberately build their capacity. When you take uniforms of the services, who sews them? I think they are imported. Gather all seamstresses and tailors. How many people can sew 10,000 within 3 months? If it's 5 companies, 10 companies, spread it for them. Give them the metrics to deliver on. The next year, instead of doing 10,000, I'm sure they would have built their capacity. You move it to 50,000. same for the booth for the security agencies.
Well, let me quickly correct something in relation to the services. What I know is that I even had a friend whose mother used to sew for the police service. And then within the police service also, they have, because there's one in my church who is in the police service and she sews. So they have those kinds of things.
Local tailors who...
Yes.
For the secondary schools, they are all done. The Ashanti region is divided into segments, and government also ensure that even locally used manufactured cloth, which is the revived, I think was it, I don't remember the name fully, so I wouldn't want to, but the revived Ghanaian owned and run cloth company was the only one mandated to make the cloth that was sewn for the students, not to be imported from China.
Awesome.
You rest your case on this. Okay. Kofi?
What I would like to highlight is actually deeply connected to what Kosi talked us through, triangulates on what Michael talked about and Tonyi as well. So I want to frame it as a question. I think it's kind of happening, but maybe not at the scale we need it to do. What does it take as a nation, regardless of which political entity is in office? And I'm making that point for the purpose of sustainability and transitioning. For us to be deliberate in our critical, targeted sectors to create local champions. Because the South Koreans, we recognize companies like Samsung, Daewoo, LG, and a few others. I think there's a term for them, chibos. And if you look at Dangote as a fairly close example. But if you even look to your Carnegies and Rockefellers and Vanderbilts and all of those, there's almost no way major industrial conglomerates emerge in any economy, any market economy, or even a control economy, if you like, that are privately owned, that do not have some level of policy support that's deliberate about this is a strategy by which we believe we can grow the target industries that we think we have a competitive, and to Ishmael's point, globally competitive advantage, right? And so we're talking about organizations that can compete on a global level and win and be sustainable because they have all the leverage. And so back to the question is, what does it take for us to get over our political or cultural or whatever the challenges of our society are about who gets to play what role, and create some Ghanaian champions who can win, who can compete on a global basis. First, win locally, and then have the muscle to scale globally.
Thank you very much, Kofi. Thank you. Thank you. Joe Jackson, I think we all currently have just about 10 minutes to go. So I'll give you 2 minutes of that. And then if there are any questions within the audience, I do that.
This whole conversation inspires me with confidence and hope, because at least there's enough consensus around the point that, number one, it's the SMEs that are going to be the plan for the future. There's enough consensus. We may not be happy about this point or that point, but there's enough consensus to give you hope. The truth of the matter also is this, that maybe we need to have a lot more visibility about what is happening, so that even the SMEs can take advantage of it. Now, the less visibility, then the less suspicion that the more suspicion that it is partisan, it is party-based, it's as they say in Ghana, it's a connection. So that the greater the visibility of what is going on, the better the transformative effect that it can have. And the different players and different parties, and it will be interesting to have someone funnel all this information regularly, what is happening in different parts of the country, what is happening just as anything from an inspiring story to an opportunity to be taken, and just to tell people these are what you can do, this is what you can do, because this is what is required. So for me, number one, it's this roundtable leaves me with a lot of confidence. Number two, I'm leaving also thinking, how do we make this not just the story around this roundtable, but the story, a nationwide story to be told?
Thank you, Joe.
I hope I kept within my 2 minutes.
Yes, you did. You have really done well. I would like to quickly say that it will be great to be given an opportunity to help with the visibility and comms part of all that we have spoken about. I'm willing to let us talk on some of these things, because that's been what I've been doing in the past 20 years. So it'll be great if we could share some ideas, and then I could throw a few perspectives on how we can make this really happen. The audience, if there's anyone with a question, please go ahead.
Thank you.
You mention your name, your organization, and then, yeah.
All right, hello. Thank you. My name is Oponchi Chiku, Enterprise Insurance. All right, my question is to Kosi. Building a transformative economy, we have heard a lot from your panel. And my question is, if you go to any tertiary institution, you realize before you finish, you have to write a long essay or a project work, you do your master's, you do a thesis, and they all end up on the shelves. We have met here, we have discussed how to bring transformation. How do we implement it as a representative from the government? How do we implement, or it also ends on, or it ends here when you get out? I want to know something. Thank you.
I think that the conversations today should inspire you. I think from all sectors that a lot is being done. To be honest, even the National Board for Small Scale Industries was my senior paper. And that is the institution that I later on in life led, in which I implemented it. And I think that one thing is that what have we learned today from this is the youth, and how important it is to make them the agenda and the conversation and the nation builders. And I think that resonates very well with government's policy direction, which is the Youth Start intervention, which we're rolling out. There's also the Ghana Jobs and Skills project, which we're rolling out currently, and would be a nationwide intervention that brings it to the center. So you can rest assured that no discussion is ever left in a vacuum. Somebody takes something and someone implements something. And for us especially as well, we take back the feedback. Whether we like the feedback or we don't like the feedback, it is feedback, and it's good enough to transform what we have to do. And it's important because if we didn't take feedback, the National Board for Small Scale Industries would still exist with 3 different acts that do not give it real direction. And now we've been able to transform into this institution that has done unprecedented, like things that most people would not have thought about. So it is going to move on. And you can follow us and come back and ask me this question even in a month's time.
Any more contributions? Yes.
So mine is a contribution. So between government itself, sometimes what the other departments or sectors within government is doing to promote SMEs, there are others also fighting against it. There's a disconnect. So in 2010, Young After School, we set up a company. We were having a lot of energy. I used to walk from Dansman to Usu to my office. And you come to your office and GRES will lock your office. You have just laptops to work. And the fire and your workers get scattered. So government agencies need to, coordinate more. Because sometimes we talk here, you are doing so well with all the figures that you are talking about. And young people, you start, especially those who want to do it right, it's like the system is against you. And people just will go off. They don't want to even be recognized by the tax system because it becomes something you need to want to run away from because you won't survive it. And another thing is that these multinationals that we talked about, listen, if they know the vulnerabilities of the SMEs. If you go to them with your business, it's an unfair deal because you cannot afford the lawyers that they will afford. If you go to them, some ideas even are stolen because you can't fight them. So it's a matter of policy to push them to be able to deal fairly with them, the SMEs. So what will government do? CSR in some countries like South Africa is deliberate. It's not a pick and choose by the various multinationals themselves. Because a lot of them is reverse advertisement even for them or adverts for them. So if Vivo want to do road safety campaign, it's a reverse advert for Vivo. But if Vivo, government have a policy that will push Vivo to help this young man to produce pineapple, he will use transport or their fuel to bring it back to the market. But if we leave them, they will do the ones that fuels their business and not necessarily the SMEs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? We have just 5 minutes, so yes.
Okay, I'm
woman there.
Enterprise Insurance.
Okay.
My question is.
Yes, I am.
It's directed to Kosi again. I would want to know that after engaging the MSMEs, after lending the financial help and through their processes, the digitization and all, is there a system to monitor how they are faring? What are the feedbacks you get, or are you interested in their progress, or it just ends with the financing and all that? Because as Tonyi said, sometimes we are interested in telling the figures to the public, but we are not interested in how they are faring. For all you know, after granting those financial assets and taking them through all the process, GRA is bombarding them with other stuff that will even not motivate them to continue whatever that they want to do. Is there a system that monitors their progress?
Monitoring and evaluation is key. We have a department that's specifically set up. That's why we also have a decentralized system, so that people in Accra are not going to Ho to go and monitor what happened in Ho. Yes, there'll be cross monitoring, but we have 3 levels of monitoring: on the regional level, in the district level, and in the national level. This model is actually very, very peculiar to Ghana. It's very similar to what they call the Small Business Administration in the US and the MSME Corp in Malaysia. And it was modeled, actually, we have certain similarities. We take business development service to the ground, to the grassroots, and allows you to monitor on the ground. So yes, we're talking about intervention, because you can't do MSME support without providing intervention. Because if you don't provide intervention, what do you monitor? So of course, we provide the intervention, and we will continue to provide interventions, and we'll continue to monitor, because it's the monitoring and the impacts that allows me to raise funding and support. When I came to the Ghana Enterprises Agency, then NPSSI, my budget was almost $19,000, if I put it in dollar terms. Now we have over 1.2 billion, 2 billion Ghana cedis to implement, because people are seeing results. People are seeing the impact of the work on the ground. And it's transforming businesses. We're seeing businesses who are starting from micro and migrating, because now the Act is asking us to intentionally migrate businesses from micro to small, small to medium. So those are the KPIs of the institution. You have to grow the businesses. So we have those conversations. We've designed even insurance packages that look specifically at traders, market burnings, insuring those. Now we need to take it from there. Businesses need to be educated on taxation issues. It is a challenge, right? It is a big challenge from both sides, and we need to address it. I'll give you an example. There have been some youth, when government said that they could get tax breaks, they said after the tax, so you should formalize their businesses. They said, no, we won't formalize, because after the tax break, we'll have to start paying taxes. So the challenges and the conversations are many. So we need to find a middle ground and build together. At the same time, what is also affecting the business is also access to finance from the banking institutions as well. Let's forget, what is it called, inflation and that. Even when it wasn't that, they were not lending, right, to women businesses. The CAP financial support that government gave was the first time that it allowed women access to funding more, and even youth, because we intentionally targeted them in more ways than you've ever seen. And our platform also allows people, we have 900,000 people apply. So when you're talking about, is it transparent? Even the numbers were overwhelming. So the work shows you that if you look at a sector, and even if you look at what Ghana Statistical Services said were the number of MSMEs, when we opened the portals and the businesses applied, we saw that there were more than we actually could handle. So there's a lot of opening, there's a lot of opportunity to grow. We're not leaving them at access to finance. But when we come to conversations like this, we need to talk about what have you done and where is the impact. That's why I talk about the impact on 22% increase in sales. Unprecedented. People are having negative percentage decreases. So if you're having positive, it's fantastic. So yes, we see challenges. There are challenges, but we will do more for you.
No, sorry, we have run out of time because there are other programs that they need to prepare for. Thank you so much for watching. One more comment. That's the last one I will give because she's my senior, and if I do not do that, from a Girls Secondary School. Please go ahead.
I really appreciate that concession given. Thank you. My name is Doris Ahiati, and I actually have two comments. My first comment is to acknowledge the work that is being done by the GEA on the ground. And indeed, we can also attest to the fact that while all these provisions are there, it seems the public is not aware. And so I would recommend that we step up efforts to amplify awareness and access to these provisions so that the impact can further increase. The second thing I want to draw attention to is about entrepreneurs and to the fact that entrepreneurship really is about problem solving. And so when you face a roadblock, don't give up there at that roadblock, because I believe even for these provisions that we are not aware of, if you keep exploring and you are determined enough to forge ahead, you would eventually find a way around whatever it is. Indeed, the future is about entrepreneurship for Africa's growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doris. Thank you so much. So this has been the Ishmael Yamson and Associates Roundtable 2022. Next year will be the 10th year since this thought leadership program has been organized in Ghana. Thank you so much, Mrs. Kosi Yankey-Ayeh, for the perspectives that you brought in. We really came to really demonstrate what government is doing, and I'm sure you've taken, I see you taking notes, so you've seen a few gaps that quickly has to be closed, and one of them is communication gap. And then thank you, Tonyi, Senayah. Fantastic perspectives from the real business point of view. Thank you, Kofi, for the dividend Goliath conversation and the fact that, I mean, bring the game on. The young people are willing and ready, and they can really deliver. Let's not underestimate what they can do. Uncle Joe, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the various perspectives, how you've challenged authority and asked that, look, let's do more than we're currently doing because it's possible, it's doable. Michael and your team, thank you so much for putting this wonderful program together. I've moderated several thought leadership programs. I think that this is one of the best that I've moderated because the issues have been so practical and with very practical solutions. I have had so much takeaway from this program, and I'm sure that many of us are going to implement a few things. Creating the champions. So, Uncle Joe, Dalex Finance has to create champions, and we need to be able to tout it out there to encourage others to. Rancard has to, and then all of us will have to create champions within our small corners. I'd like to quickly say a big thank you to Stanbic Bank, to Standard Chartered, to Data Bank, to Business 24, Lucozade, Specialized, and of course Metro TV for making this really possible. Thank you so much. My name is Odile Ntiamwa, and I'm a communications consultant.